professions in which an employee can expect to lose his life at the hands of another person. And there are virtually no occupations other than police work which may require the employee to actually take the life of another. These are not comforting thoughts, but they are the reality that some police will have to face, and a reality for a theoretical production. It's not part of a television adventure show. It is an accurate representation of real situations Oregon police officers have experienced. An average of about 106 officers are killed each year in the United States, and hundreds more are seriously injured, in some cases permanently disabled. As your governor, I urge you to seriously consider the content presented in this film, keeping in mind that the dramatizations are recreations of actual officer-involved shootings, and that the prison inmates interviewed were actually convicted for crimes related to shooting of police officers. Remember, your safety and the safety of the public you're protecting depends upon your own efforts to adequately prepare yourself mentally and physically for dangerous situations.
Deputy Jim Strobink of the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office was recently granted permission by the superintendent of the Oregon State Penitentiary to enter the prison to interview Dick Mayberry, Paul Jackson, Bill Gray, and Dan Jones. Each of these inmates was involved in an assault on a police officer. In 2 of the cases, the officers died.
The reason I'm here, I was involved in bank robbery where a policeman got shot and killed.
Paul, why are you here in the penitentiary?
Started off for cutting the police chief's throat or stabbing him, whatever.
Why are you in prison now?
For shooting a police officer.
Officer Mark Collier of the Salem Police Department talks with psychiatrist Dr. Ed Kolbach.
Well, I remember getting assigned to patrol the area north of where the incident occurred and going by a small shopping center with a parking lot out front, seeing a car that resembled the description of a, turned around and came back, parked my bike in front of a adjacent business, went out, looked at the vehicle, watched it for what I thought to be an eternity, but in reality I suppose it was 2 or 3 minutes. Didn't see anybody around it. Got back on my bike, went into the parking lot, and got off my bike as I was asking for the description of the suspect. Went over to a car that was in the middle of the parking lot, I suppose for cover, and was getting the description back, and about that time I saw a guy that apparently at the time I felt matched the description. I remember indicating after the description was broadcast that, well, this guy matches it and he's also Mexican. But looking back on it, I felt so confident in that information, I wonder why I didn't act a little bit more cautiously.
1977, a convenience store in Salem was held up at gunpoint. The suspect fired 2 rounds into the ceiling as he fled. The victim provided responding units with excellent descriptions of the suspect and his vehicle. This information was broadcast to patrolling officers. Officer Mark Collier monitored the information and located the suspect vehicle.
your driver's license, please? Code 5, 404. Code 5, I've been shot. I've been shot. I need an ambulance. Liberty and Chase. I wonder why I didn't act a little bit more cautiously.
Any idea why you didn't?
Well, I think as a police officer, you tend to try to be aggressive from the standpoint to get things done. And a lot of times we, I think, go forward sooner than we should. That maybe there's sometimes to take a deep breath and sit back a little bit. So, in my particular case, he got in the vehicle, backed up, and started coming towards me very, very slowly. I stepped out from behind the car and walked towards him, and it was just like a magnet. Just like a magnet was pulling us together, and I could feel the hair on the back of my head kind of starting to stand up. I had my hand on my weapon, and I made contact with the guy. And he asked me what it was all about, and I asked him for his driver's license, and he asked me what the problem was. I said, well, there was a situation down the street, or there was a problem down the street. And at that time, I remember his hand coming up, and I was watching his hands. And I remember pulling my weapon out and having it pointed at his head, pulling the trigger, and nothing happening. And about that time, I remember a shot, falling backwards, the guy leaving, and put out a description and unload my weapon, which is kind of a curious thing to do, I suspect, but I unloaded the weapon thinking I could just see some citizen grabbing my weapon and shooting as the guy left, and all the businesses that were in front of us were full. I was afraid somebody might get shot.
How did it feel to be shot? How does it feel to be shot?
When it happened, it was like everything was really in slow motion. I remember thinking how rotten it felt to pull that trigger and nothing happened, and then hearing his go off and knowing that I was hit. I never felt that I was in danger of dying. I knew I was hurt. I knew I couldn't move, but I never felt that I was going to die. It hurt. I was numb. I was shaking, and not from the pain, but just from the adrenaline. I felt immediately after that, and I hit the concrete, put out the description, unloaded my weapon, I started feeling embarrassed.
Embarrassed?
Yeah.
Because?
Because good guys are supposed to win. Bad guys aren't. And in this situation, the good guy lost. And I can always look back, and some of the feelings I had right afterwards is that, oh, this weapon, it didn't go off. Had it went off, I wouldn't have been in this predicament. But had I not left that car that I had for cover, I wouldn't have been in that predicament probably. Or had I not even come out of the parking lot and just observed, I might not have been in that predicament. So I felt alone. I really did, yes. I did, I felt alone.
In what way?
Well, the department had contacted my wife, of course, that night, as soon as they could find her, and brought her down there, and explained things to her, and she was, of course, upset, and spent as much time down there as she could. But you have to remember, here a guy is, he's in a hospital bed, in my particular case, in a room by myself, and people come in and out and not really sure what's really going on, and you're sitting there all by yourself. A lot of time to think about what happened. I'm still embarrassed because the bad guy won, and here comes a couple of detectives trying to get my statement. I felt kind of paranoid, I guess, is the best term.
Did you, in looking back, could it have been handled differently, do you think, or are there ways that could have been done that would have made you feel less alone or less like the bad guy had won and you'd failed somehow?
Oh, I think you're gonna get that kind of feeling anytime a policeman's involved in a shooting, and even if he is the one that so-called wins, but in my case, I think probably the best thing that could have happened was to have somebody that had been involved in a shooting situation come in and talk to me. But I'm quite sure had that person came in, I probably would not have said much to him. I really didn't feel like talking to anyone. The detectives that came in to take the statement explained that, hey, you know, we've got to do this, and this is something we need to take care of, and I realized that. But when they left, I was all alone again, and had time to sit there and think about it again, and maybe how my story might not jive with the suspect's story, and it might make me look even worse than I feel, and it was a situation that I'm not sure could be made any better.
Why? You said you didn't want to talk to anyone. Why?
I think it's basically the embarrassment again. I really didn't want to go over something where I felt that I could have done better. Everybody likes to be known for doing their best, not their worst or less than what they feel they can do. And it was a situation that I felt that I could have done a lot better and didn't.
Do you remember in the months that followed various emotions that you had or things that came up in your life that made things difficult for you? What was it like for you?
Well, probably the biggest thing is this was the second situation within 6 months that I had had a pretty serious life-threatening situation. And I was of the attitude at that time that I really didn't bring the job home with me from the standpoint, I really didn't tell my wife the kind of things that were going on. And so when these two situations happened, particularly the second situation, you know, getting shot, oh my gosh, she really took it hard. And I think it really did affect our relationship. I think probably we're more open now. I tell her more things that are going on. But she would be very pleased, I'm sure, if I would get out of police work, even though she does realize it's something that I like doing.
Have you thought about it since the shootings?
Oh, yes, yeah. Sometimes, you know, you start thinking about things like that and wondering what other kind of jobs you could do. And yeah, I thought a lot about it, particularly right after it happened. And in my particular circumstance, the doctor came in the day after it happened and wanted to know if I had any feeling in my foot. And I said, well, no, not really. And he says, well, that could be something that might improve or might be permanent. And I started thinking about, oh, geez, if I'm disabled, you know, what am I going to do?
Today, as we talk, I think you're pretty open about all the things that happened. But why in that 6 to 8 month period were you keeping it to yourself? What was it, embarrassment again, or?
I don't think it was because I didn't have the opportunity. People had given me the opportunity to talk about it.
Why? You know, this isn't a common feeling I think we all have. We should do it ourselves. We don't want to share it. Why did you have it, do you think?
Oh, I suppose it's that being able to take care of it myself.
Do you think that was wise in retrospect?
Probably not. I think my process of going through and getting this straightened out, this happened 4 years ago. I think it took a year, maybe 2 years to get it all straightened out in my mind. It could have been taken care of in a number of months.
What would you say to someone who would say that a shooting like that doesn't have a whole lot of emotional impact and you should get on top of it and move on? How would you respond to something like that?
Well, I think they're trying to kid themselves.
Yeah.
I think they need to, I think they do need to get on top of it and go on, but I think they need to seek some help. What I found, probably one of the big things that I found in my situation was people didn't know what to say. I had the feeling they wanted to help, but they didn't know what to say. They didn't know whether or not to say anything,
yeah,
or to inquire and try to get me to talk.
What could they have said then?
That they were available, I guess. It's probably the biggest thing. Give the guy an opportunity to talk if he wants to, and if he doesn't want to, give him that opportunity.
What would you say if you had to give people involved in a similar incident, what would you say to them? If somebody came to you and said, I was involved in a shooting, what can I expect? What could I do? Is there any advice you could give that person? To give them the opportunity, to give them the information that you can go see this particular person, or you can go see a psychologist with all kinds of confidentiality where you don't have to worry about some kind of information leak type of problem. And I think it's good to get to talk about it as soon as you can,
right after it happens, and probably to talk with somebody that is a neutral party from the standpoint they're not within the department. I would probably, if I had a subordinate that was involved in a situation like this, I would probably explain to him the feelings that I had, and probably give him the opportunity and suggest to him to go talk to somebody that is neutral, outside the department, not involved in criminal justice, a psychologist, maybe his clergyman, a close friend, anyone, just to that they can go over and not feel that they have to substantiate everything that they did.
Probably create higher anxiety levels for responding officers than any other assignment. Traditionally, the family beef ranks extremely high in danger to intervening officers. Many of the police officers who are killed each year lose their lives in domestic disputes.
19-6 family dispute, 3162 Southwest Arbor Drive. Unknown at this time if weapons are involved.
19 copies.
The officer must recognize the potential for danger. As he proceeds to the scene, his thoughts and emotions replay images of previous similar situations, and he wonders what awaits him at this call. Adrenaline begins to flow, and he begins to react physiologically to the possibility of danger or violence.
What comes to my mind are feelings, more feelings, and even more feelings. And what I mean by that is I watch the initial part of a call, I think of the officer, the adrenaline begins to pump, the apprehension about the call, even the tendency maybe to get it over with.
Information for 19, I'm covering at 1813.
No woman, come on, goddamn, I want to eat my dinner. Stop, I'm out of here, you're drunk, I'm not drunk. What's wrong? I'm not drunk, I want to eat. Do something around here for a change.
Get out the door, go open the door, I'll open the police.
I'm not going to go to this door.
I hope it's the police and I hope they take
I don't care, I'm not afraid of no damn rules, right? Come in. Come on in.
What's going
What the
on?
hell do you want in here?
Wait a minute.
He drank the whole pint of it.
I gotta talk to you. Dinner around this damn place.
One at a time. I'm going to start
with you. Yeah.
He hit me with a frying
I want to
pan.
have some dinner. I've been working all damn day out in the
That doesn't give
I
you
don't
no
come home.
excuse.
You lay on her butt around
I'm
there.
going to talk to you both. We're going to calm down.
There's nobody home.
Right. Mrs. Horn, come here. Let me take a look at that, please.
He hit me right
She's
here.
all right. There's nothing wrong with that little
Something
thing.
happened there. Tyler,
You
please
could have
take
killed
Horn into
me.
the bedroom and
Hell no,
talk
I'm not going to the bedroom. This is my house. Don't tell me what to do in my house.
Calm down,
Just
calm
get him
down.
out of
Calm
here. Get him
down.
out of here.
Calm down when I get some dinner around
We'll
here.
get you some dinner. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, when I'm hungry. Yeah, get her out of here. I don't want her in here. Get her out of here.
Mrs. Horn, let's
I
go.
mean, take it easy.
What would you do? You go home, you don't have any... Yeah, keep it down, sure. Look at there.
What are we going to do about this, Mrs. Horn?
No, no.
I don't know. I just wanted to stop.
Here's all gone. Look at there.
I just can't take no more of
Are you
it.
willing to sign a complaint against...
Yes, if I have to.
Take her to jail
All
instead
right,
of me.
let's go back in and see
I
if
don't
you
want to
have...
go to jail.
Come on, let's go back in here.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with these folks, Tyler?
Yeah, I arrested the old man about a month ago.
Yeah, he knows
When
where
I
I
in
am.
charge.
I've seen
They're
him.
both alcoholics.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of guys out here.
Yeah.
It's a chronic problem.
It's no problem.
Yeah, Mrs. Horn, would you sign a complaint against your husband?
No,
How about me? Why don't you let me sign a complaint
I
against
just
her?
wanted to put a scare into
Put
him.
a scare into me. Sure does.
Get some food in his stomach and he'll take off his boots and go to bed.
Will you eat that kind of stuff?
All right, there's
No.
nothing we can do here.
Yeah.
Mr. Horn, if you're going to behave yourself, we'll go ahead and go.
But don't tell me what to do in my own house. This is my house.
Mr. Horn, let me explain something to you. If we have to come back here
No,
tonight, or if you
no,
lay
don't-
another
don't-
hand on her, we're going to
You
have
can't
to
arrest
put you
me
in
in my
jail. Do you
house.
understand me?
No, no. Get your
All right.
ass out of here. I'll
Hold it
give
down,
you something to look at.
Wait a minute.
Hey, he's got a rifle back there.
I'll give you something to
Put
look
that
at.
down!
Put it down!
Get her out of the way! Get her down!
Put it down! Put it down! Put it down! Put it down! Bring me a towel. Give me a towel over here.
Once the incident has developed and it's happened, then all kinds of intense feelings. If I were some of these officers, for example, I'd feel certainly some fear. Fear would continue after one of these incidents for a long time. Be a lot of anger, I think. I'd have some anger certainly at the crooks involved, but I'd also have some anger at society, maybe for even allowing me to be involved here. Even though I chose the role, I still might have some anger, some sadness. There might even be a little bit of a macho feeling of pride, like, aren't I tough? I really proved myself. But then I think I might be a little bit guilty about feeling pride in a situation like this. Some embarrassment that it didn't go well, perhaps, that I did something wrong. We could sit here all day talking about feelings that something like this engenders, very powerful feelings. These are life and death situations. Now, I would wonder how well the officers in these scenes can then debrief these feelings, to use a term, to deal with them later. Can they talk about them to people who are non-judgmental? Can the officer himself even own up to the fact that he's afraid, he's embarrassed, maybe he's sad? Or does he need to say, oh boy, I should be above those feelings. I want to get rid of them, put them under the table, under the rug. These instances here that we see, these are crisis situations that will cause a lot of feelings that I think have to be dealt with somehow, or the officer is not going to survive. They said we're talking about the world of feelings. Feelings, feelings, and feelings. And I think the only way to deal with feelings is to talk about them, to try and share them with other people. And I'll hear this from patients, I've heard this from police officers. They say, well, what good does it do if I'm angry? Why should I talk about it? Or if I'm afraid, what good does it do to talk about it? Well, if you don't, I think feelings can be like our volcano here, our Mount St. Helens. There's a buildup, and at some point in time they erupt. Now, to give some examples of the way I've seen this happen, I remember one officer told me about a situation where he went to a swimming pool or went to a drowning of some sort, and he thought that he handled it very well. He said, oh, no problem, it's part of my job, you have to do this. But about a year later, a similar situation around a swimming pool where his daughter fell into the water and they pulled her out, he found himself shaking uncontrollably, and this fellow was fairly bright, and after a while he figured out that what had happened is that he never really dealt properly with that first crisis. He had buried the feelings, and like the volcano, they'd erupted a year later in a similar situation. And I think in all of these crises we see on film today, if the feelings aren't somehow debriefed, that they'll crop up again. Maybe when an officer drives past the corner where the incident took place, or even just a corner that reminds him of the corner, he might get the shakes. Or he may find himself less willing to respond to a call because his feelings are going to control some of his behavior unless he can debrief these feelings.
This debriefing would eliminate the possibility of delayed stress.
I think it would help. I think these are real complicated subjects we're talking about. Nothing can guaranteed proven 100% right all the time. I think it's the only thing I can think of that really helps is trying to talk to somebody about it, trying to get the feelings out, somebody non-judgmental, not somebody who's going to sit back and say, well, your technique was wrong, you should have done it differently, or you oughtn't to let that get to you, don't be embarrassed, or don't be afraid. No, that's the wrong thing to do. I mean somebody who will allow you to talk about it and say, yes, I understand, that's the way you feel, and that's a problem. I think that's the only thing I can think of that will really help in a situation like this. And you may have to go over it, and over it, and over it. And other people might get tired of hearing about it. But as you go over it, you're kind of working through the feelings, trying to get them under control, get rid of some of them. And only if you do that, I think, will you be under any control. Otherwise, they'll control you.
In August 1979, Multnomah County Deputy Sheriff John Cannon became involved in a vehicle stop which deteriorated into a shooting situation.
John, in 1979, you were involved in a shooting incident here in Portland. Could you tell us a little bit about that incident and what transpired?
Well, I was just going on duty on a Saturday morning, and I heard a call go out that a holdup had just occurred at a small grocery store in northeast Portland. And without even going into service first, because the air was so busy, I headed for that direction. And shortly thereafter, saw an automobile that I had no particular reason to believe was involved. We had no good description at all. All we had was a description of a man that was approximately maybe 30 years old, a bit of a prominent nose, and wearing green clothing. Apparently pants matching the shirt. And no description of a car at all. But I recall years ago being told by my coaches when I was being broke in to play my hunches, so I just turned around and followed this car because it was about in the right place at the right time, and the man about the right age, and subsequently made the stop and got involved in an altercation with a man. It happened to be the right car.
Standing approximately 5 minutes ago, one white male suspect has a prominent nose, is in his late 20s, wearing green shirt and green pants, matching colors.
May I see your driver's license, please?
Yeah, sure. Except I left my wallet at home. I don't have it with me. What's the matter? Did I run a stop sign or something? What'd you pull me over for?
No, you haven't committed any traffic violation. We had a holdup in the area earlier this morning, and you just happened to be in the right place at the right time. I thought I'd get your name, and I may have to write you a citation for driving without a license.
Yeah, well...
Could I have you open your glove box, please, sir?
No, there's nothing in there. I don't know what you want to look for anyway. Take a look.
Okay, and for my own safety, I'm going to have to check under your seat for a weapon.
Oh, so come on, man.
Bear with me here for a minute. Okay, sir, can I have you step out of the car, please?
Jesus Christ, man, there's nothing in there anyway. Come on, what is this?
What the hell's going on here? Knock it off, guy. That's a policeman. Get him off! Get off here! Get out of there! Knock it off!
I've always got to assume, you know, if I was a police officer, assume that there is more danger than what you see. You know, you got to assume there's somebody standing around with a gun at your back, you know, watching you. You never know. Don't play TV cop. In other words, you know, you see a lot of these TV programs where the cop's always a hero. You know, it ain't always the cop the hero. The criminal is a lot of hero too. The criminal has got more to lose than that cop. And the criminal don't give a damn one way or the other. He's out for one thing, and that's money or kill him. And the cop gets in his way, he's going to get shot.
I hadn't called for cover at this time because what I had to go on was so slight. As a matter of fact, the man had blue clothing on, not green. I had already taken some precautions to make sure that I was covering myself. But yet I had to ask myself another question before going under the passenger side, whether that was justified or not. Part of the psychology behind my feeling free to lay down on the seat of that car was that this man is a reasonable man, and he's dealing with odds too. And this was one-on-one. It wasn't three of them and one of me. It was one-on-one. And for him to attack me meant that he alone was attacking a uniformed representative and an armed representative of the criminal justice system.
He could have done anything other than act like a policeman. There was, up to a point that night, I was frustrated because I realized that all the wild schemes I'd put together in my head were about to go down the drain. But it wasn't really anger. Not the type of anger that you shoot people for. And at some point his insistence caused that. Now, I'm not saying he shouldn't have insisted. But he didn't know who he was dealing with. He was by himself.
Well, I think you might talk about a defense mechanism called denial. And all I mean by this is that all of us deny certain things to stay sane. Like I may want to take a plane trip to Chicago tonight, and planes crash, but I'm going to say it's not going to happen to me, it'll never happen to me. And I think an officer, in order to function, probably has to use a lot of denial every day. He says, well, this is not going to be a bad call, or nothing bad will happen to me. Now, one of these incidents, though, when that takes place, the denial breaks down. Suddenly the person says, my God, it really happened. You know, I almost got killed, or I shot someone else. It did happen. I'm not immune. I'm not a super person. And that is quite a blow. And how to handle that, then? A person has to kind of rethink the way he views himself and his job and the world, and that's very, very difficult.
In viewing these incidents, are there any characteristics that would make it more difficult for the police officer to cope?
Well, I think one thing is what I call the social conscience of police officers. I think they have a very strict social conscience. These are individuals who dedicate their life to doing the right thing, to catching people who do bad things. They have a very clear idea of right and wrong. They blame a lot, if you think about it. They're always placing blame. I think they not only blame others, but they blame themselves. They have a very high standard of performance for themselves. And you know, when somebody in the department doesn't do well, the others are quick to jump on him, and I think individuals are quick to jump on themselves. So these situations didn't go well. Some people would say if a shot has been fired in any incident, it hasn't gone well, taken to the grand jury or something. So I think that one of the first tendencies would be for the officer to blame himself, to say, I screwed up, I did wrong, and for the others to join in and say, yes, you did wrong, you shouldn't have had that happen, we're going to investigate you. And I think this can be very detrimental, you know, obviously. On the other hand, I think there's some things about police work and police agency that can be very supportive. There's been times when I have envied police officers because in my business I have an office by myself, I'm a solo practitioner, as they say, I don't have a lot of group support, but properly used, the police officer has a large group that will support him, and I really envy him. I can give him a social contact and give him all kinds of psychological support in crises like this, if it's properly used. In contrast, by the way, to the police officer's very responsible attitude toward things, I think we saw just the opposite here on the criminals, or whatever you want to call them. And this is typical. I think all of these individuals tended to blame something else for what they'd done. They didn't take responsibility. The sniper who had shot an officer, if you listen to him, he was in a way saying, well, it was the officer's fault for sauntering out and not being careful enough. That's why he got shot. It wasn't my fault, it was his fault. I think the criminal element does this. This is the way they defend, the way they handle life, whereas I think the officer is more prone to blame himself for things. A criminal would probably handle a lot of these stress situations much better than. He would say, well, it wasn't my fault. Just somebody did it to me, and he knows who to hate, and he goes on his merry way.
He just walked right on out there. He had a suspicion. He thought the shots were coming from there, but he wasn't sure, and he didn't double check. He just kind of John Wayne'd it, walked right on out there, and that's when he was shot. a sniper, so to speak, a sniping incident where I was on the roof sniping at police officers. A police officer was hit, and he was the only one in the district with a bulletproof vest on, and it saved his life. It was an experimental program. At the time, I was going through a lot of emotional distress, and that's what more or less brought the incident on. It wasn't a profit-motivated type crime or anything like that. It was just a bizarre act of violence, really.
Now, you were on top of this building, and what did you have for weapons?
I had 2 rifles. I had a .22 Ruger semi-automatic rifle, and I had a .30-30 Winchester.
How much ammunition did you have?
Approximately 600 rounds. Most of it was 22 shells.
And when you went to the top of this building, you were distressed, despondent. You had a purpose, though. What was that purpose?
I wanted to end my life at that point.
Did you want to take anyone else with you?
Yes, I felt that police officers would, I guess, you know, I was running through my mind, they get paid for this sort of thing, or that they were armed, and if I shot at them, they would shoot me, and all this. It was just a lot of jumble of thoughts going through my mind.
That elevator.
Dan, if there were 3 recommendations that you would give to police officers, old and new police officers coming into the business, what would be the 3 things that you would recommend for them to adopt to help them stay alive?
I would say don't be too rash. Just be calm about the situation. Don't run out, you know, in the middle of whatever's going on. Bulletproof vests, yes. If I were a cop, Lord, I'd wear about 2 or 3 of them. That's what saved his life. He was the only person in the whole vicinity wearing that stuff. So all that protective equipment, yeah, scarf it up, wear it.
Lieutenant Lonnie Ryan interviewed officers who were involved in an escape from the Washington County Courthouse. The officers included a corrections officer from whose custody the suspect fled, and patrol personnel who subsequently located the suspect, pursued him, and brought the Pruitt incident to a close.
Mr. Pruitt and myself arrived in the courtroom about 2 minutes to 9 for a 9 o'clock sentencing. Went in and sat down. There was a judge, 2 deputy district attorneys, and his attorney present. The 2 deputy district attorneys addressed the court, said that there was a scheduling conflict.
Yes, court will reconvene in 10 minutes.
Cuffs on.
to pursue Pruitt and his accomplice once they had cleared the courthouse. Don, do you want to pick it up when you first spotted the Mustang and take it to the completion for you and your partner?
Okay, we were parked in a school parking lot observing a road that leads away from the city of Hillsborough where the original incident had taken place. There had been 10 or 15 minutes elapsed since the people were seen getting in the suspect vehicle. As the vehicle approached, it matched the general description given. However, it was not traveling at an unusual rate of speed. However, as it passed in front of us, the vehicle then began to pick up his speed, increasing to an unusual rate of speed, which is what really tipped us off that this probably was the suspect vehicle. As we pulled in behind him, his vehicle was quite fast, and there was a long straight stretch of road with some rolling dips that he had to be doing close to 100 plus miles per hour. As he got away from us, he went into a dip and an S curve where there's another road that takes off to the side out of that curve. As we approached that curve ourselves, there was a large cloud of ash right in the general curve. My first thought was that he had tried to turn down that side road and had stirred up some ash swinging through the intersection. As we got a little closer to that area, it became obvious that the ash was on the other side of the intersection. Therefore, we knew that he had continued on the road he was on.
Mm-hmm.
He went off the road to the right, hit a telephone cable box, went across the road onto the road on the left-hand side. It apparently had a tire blowout somewhere in there.
Deputy Weber pointed out, I was concerned about the cloud of dust. I slowed down there, and that was critical because Pruitt at that time had enough time to get in behind us. Usually the classic felony car stop, the suspect flees ahead of the approaching patrol car, and in this case Pruitt used extremely good judgment. He's very aggressive. He ran toward us instead of ahead. And by doing that, he was able to, of course, take us into custody.
All right, hold it! Let me get the truck! Come on! Now down on the ground, you dead motherfuckers!
Gary Sorosky, you were a one-man unit.
That's correct.
Second car on the scene.
That's correct.
And you pulled up apparently after Pruitt had disarmed Deputies Weber and Clark and Thomas.
Right. On the initial call, I was given a location to stand by near the freeway, Highway 26. I'd been up there for approximately 2 to 3 minutes when I heard Don and Clark go in pursuit, and I went down in that direction in hopes that I would catch them or assist them somehow. As I was traveling to that point, I heard them go through the pursuit. I heard them call out that they were at an intersection, 195th and Baseline, and that also the suspects were on foot and they would be out of the car. We do carry pack sets out there, and I had tried 2 or 3 times to contact them on their pack sets via my car radio. They did not respond at all, which is not uncommon out there. We have dead spots out in the county, and sometimes the handsets don't transmit. My whole thought was probably they made the stop. They were either taking Pruitt into custody or they were in a foot pursuit situation, and I would roll in, talk to witnesses, try to get behind them and block off Pruitt and his girlfriend in that foot pursuit. I rolled up to the scene. Again, as Don indicated, there was a slight S-turn. There was still ash in the air. I was coming in at about 65, 70 miles an hour. The first thing I saw was the green Mustang, which had crashed into a bank. I then saw one of our patrol cars behind it, a little off to the side. Then I also, next thing I saw, or I didn't see any people standing there. So that kind of reaffirmed my belief that they were in foot pursuit. As I got closer, due to the brown uniforms and the brownish ash, it was difficult to pick Don out on the ground. I picked Clark out first, wearing the green uniform. And then I saw Don on the ground, and at that point, I was bringing my car to a stop. I didn't know why they were down. It took a second, and looking back at it, I think it was stupid, because I remember thinking, that's not right, you know, something's wrong here. I came into the scene. As I stopped, I was just to the right rear of the first patrol car. Pruitt jumped up from the vehicle, the side of the vehicle. I was about 10, 15 feet away from that.
Pull it! Out of the car! Stay over there. Hurry up! Now down! In the car! Not one move! Okay?
Joe, do you want to pick it up next and give me your impressions of the pursuit from the time you guys got into it till the end of the incident?
Okay, we picked it up at the intersection. We just came up the top of the hill, just as Gary and Pruitt were pulling away from the curb. And from then on, it was the chase, is all. We stayed behind Gary. There were several turns, and I wasn't much involved except keeping my fingernails dug into the dashboard, holding on until we got to the shooting scene.
Interesting, he did turn on the overhead lights, too. We would have to turn, and he was monitoring our frequencies. We would set up roadblocks, and immediately after a roadblock was called up, he would initiate a turn that would take him 180 degrees away from that. So we switched to a different frequency, which helped.
The street we were on is Northwest 185th. There are several steep hills with equally steep backsides to them. We were proceeding north on this street at approximately 65 to 85 miles an hour. The final hill that he crossed was, I believe, 185th and Springville Road, and he topped the hill there at about 70, 75 miles an hour, which the car went airborne. And we determined that once it hit on the other side, that's when it took out the oil pan. He proceeded another quarter mile.
Code 3.
started up. We're cutting the police chief's throat. We're stabbing him.
Do you think the police officer did anything wrong in the way that he handled the situation? If you were the police officer, and if you were to reverse roles in that same situation, what do you think that he did wrong?
What I think he did wrong was opening the door and jerking somebody out of the pickup in my own driveway. I mean, that's what I also see is a lack of understanding on his behalf.
Is there any suggestion that you can give to police officers that might help them in dealing with people and to save their lives?
Just remember that everybody they're talking to is human beings, just like their wives and their moms and dads, you know. Just remember everybody's capable of being human in their hearts.
How many banks were you involved in?
3.
How much planning went into each one?
Quite a bit. Hours and days, sometimes weeks. Cased the bank out. Knew exactly at what time and where the police officer was in the vicinity. What his schedules were. Where he went for coffee breaks and what times. We knew how he operated his radio, or where he had to call to have the calls transferred or whatever. And we tried to figure all this time out, how long we're allowed to enter the bank, take care of business, be out and gone out of the area before any backup is around, or even that officer in that area is there. And we've made dry runs and stuff like this to time ourselves and everything else.
Are there people, are there criminals that dedicate an awful lot of time to staying physically fit?
Sure.
And learning techniques on how to defend themselves against being apprehended by a police officer?
Many criminals are, a lot of them don't call themselves criminals, I guess you would call it. Take a lot of time to keep physically fit because of the need to, to act, the way they're to act, They search out the police officer's actions, his duties, the way he is. Whatever the policeman's supposed to do, a criminal probably knows more than the police officer does about his duties.
Bill, is there any advice that you could extend to young police officers coming into the profession and the old weathered police officers already now participating in law enforcement to perhaps help them save their lives in the future?
Courtesy. Because I think a person who is sincerely courteous, considerate of another human being's feelings, position in life, will probably go a lot farther in learning about the circumstances of what he's dealing with. Because there's very few people, I would imagine, that pick up a gun and say, I'm going out and shoot somebody, except for crimes of passion. I would imagine there's been a few that have said, I'm going out and shoot a police officer. I hear and hear day after day people talking about, if anybody stops me, I'm going to blow them away. I've talked that way myself. It's not real. You don't mean that. You can bullshit everyone but yourself. You don't really mean that you're going to kill a human being. But being in these places, being involved in unacceptable activity of any kind outside, whether you're carrying a gun or not, builds a set of circumstances that don't really surface in a few minutes conversation. if I believe the police officer that I shot, if he had said, all right, I'll write you a ticket and go on, and we'd have got stopped at a roadblock up the way, things would have been fine. I know I wouldn't have shot him. But he was going to make an arrest, and he pushed. Now, I honestly don't know if he was overbearing, antagonistic, but even today, the way I feel today, it wouldn't have to be a police officer or anyone else. If someone comes on you with an overbearing attitude, you're going to get upset. And if the circumstances that brought you to that time and place are of the proper nature, you're going to react far differently than might be expected or anticipated. But I have never seen anyone react with violence to courtesy and caution.
Bill, if there were 3 things that you could suggest to police officers to help save their lives, what would they be?
I think probably first of all is to understand themselves and their reason for being policemen. To try and understand the nature of people so that they can understand who they're dealing with.
You look like you're in pretty good condition. You're 46 years old. You're physically fit. Do you feel confident enough to go one-on-one with just about any cop that you would ever encounter?
Not any cop I've ever encountered, most of them, but I don't fight fair.
Doctor, in general, are police officers in good shape?
In general, police officers rank right up there with 60-year-old librarians as far as being in good shape. I've done stress tests on several whole police departments, and without question, they're the most physically unfit group I have ever stressed. Even worse than that is the attitude toward getting physically fit. At least with firemen, they're a little enthused about it, or pretend to be, but policemen, just for some reason, have an attitude against physical fitness. We measure your level of physical fitness right here on the treadmill by giving you a standard exercise load in which we increase the speed and the grade every 3 minutes until you become exhausted. At the level at which you become exhausted depends on your heart's ability to pump blood and oxygen through the blood vessels out through the muscle. Very rarely is one limited in their physical ability by the muscles themselves. It's almost always the heart, the circulation, or your so-called aerobic fitness. Now, when one is unfit, their heart simply doesn't pump enough blood each time that it beats. So if you're exerting vigorously and your pulse rate is 160, the heart is pumping not enough blood each time it beats, and so not enough blood gets out into the extremities. If you're physically fit, when your pulse is 160, then you're pumping lots of blood out, your muscles are getting more oxygen, they're feeling better, and you have more reserve. No matter how hard one wants to do more, if your heart isn't pumping enough blood out, you're simply exhausted and can't do it. You need to have some cardiovascular reserve, which comes from physical fitness.
Okay, Doc, I'm convinced. What does it take to get myself in shape?
Okay, well, I like your attitude. At least you want to get in shape. And to get physically fit, you've got to have an attitude that you want to do it. To get physically fit, you've got to go on a physical fitness program. And there are about 5 criteria that you have to meet. You have to go and exercise. First place, you have to exercise in a total body way, what we call aerobic fitness, like running, bicycling, rowing, swimming, jumping rope. But you've got to involve the whole body. Second thing, it has to be vigorous. You can't get in shape playing golf, playing checkers. It's got to be vigorous. The third criteria is that the exercise must be sustained, at least 15 minutes, which means you can't take a few steps, a few sprints, stop and rest. You've got to get out and run, bicycle, do whatever you're going to do, but it's got to be sustained. Fourthly, it's got to be frequent. 5 times a week's ideal. 3 times is pretty minimal. 2 times is better than nothing, but 3 to 5 times a week you have to do it. You don't store fitness, so you have to keep doing it. And lastly, it has to have some semblance of pleasure, or else you won't do it. So get yourself into some kind of program that you like to do. If you like to run alone at night and chase dogs, fine, that's your thing, do it. If you need to run with your neighbor, your wife, your neighbor's wife, your neighbor's wives, whatever, get out so that you do enjoy doing it. Now, I think that policemen have a professional responsibility to be fit. I think the taxpayers have a right to expect policemen to be able to do the job that they're paying them to do. So get out and get physically fit, and you'll enjoy life more, and you'll do a better job.
I just like to say, if you're going to stay alive, don't be a hero.
Did he remove his eyes from you at any point?
Only when he reached back in the car to pick up the radio.
And what happened then?
I shot him.
Bill, you shot him at that time. Where did you shoot him?
In his shirt pocket.
How old was the police officer that was shot? Do you have any idea?
I don't even remember his face.
Being shot at. If you was being shot at. Okay, we have shots fired at. Five in code. All cars use caution. Sure, have been shot. Have been shot.
I'd like to see your operator's license, please.
What did I do?
Well, you just passed a car out there on the other side of the road.
What the hell? What's the problem here?
I'd like to see your operator's license.
Sure.
like to see your operator's license, please?
What's the problem, officer?
Well, you went through a stop sign back there.
Freeze, fucker. Freeze, mister! Freeze! Freeze!
This, please. Give it up. Throw the gun out.
From his house near McIver Park, Clackamas County deputies found his wife, Marlene, lying dead, shot about 9 this morning.
The investigation was continuing here at this area when Mr. Godleski arrived back here in his car, was spotted by a deputy who hollered that the suspect had returned. Mr. Godleski then allegedly shouted something out of the window of his car, fired 4 rounds with a high-powered rifle. 2 of the rounds struck 2 deputies, a detective in the leg and a sergeant in the torso.
One investigator returned the fire but missed. Deputies say Godleski continued to shoot as he fled, blasting at but missing an Oregonian reporter and photographer, hitting a car belonging to an investigator for the Clackamas County District Attorney, running another car off the road. Godleski was not shot. His injuries the result of the accident. Fire department paramedics arrived and took over.
Gary, can you move your foot for me?
As they worked, deputies started going through Godleski's car, hauling out a collection of rifles, handguns, and ammunition for both. Neighbors had begun to gather by then, at least one armed as heavily as the suspect. He was persuaded to go back inside. There is little known so far about why the shooting started at Godleski's house. He is reported by neighbors to have been reclusive and out of work for a long time. His wife, Marlene, had worked as a waitress, most recently at the Viewpoint Tavern a year ago at the Safari Club in Estacada. As the weapons were removed from the car, it was impossible to ignore the sticker on the back of it, in support of the right to keep and bear arms. This day, deputies say he did at least both. In Clackamas County, I'm Tim Storrs, Channel 2 News.
9 p.m. The radio call was frantic. The murder suspect had powered his way out of his guarded hospital room and made a run for freedom. But when police officers got to the scene, Godleski was already down. He had been hit by a passing pickup truck.
Two guys coming around the road. It looked like someone was chasing him down the road, and this guy was coming in about 20 yards in front of us. We seen he was naked, you know, and we skidded sideways, and he jumped up inside of the truck and busted the windshield, and he just jumped inside of us. We couldn't do nothing about it.
The 34-year-old suspect's bizarre actions come as a surprise to those who knew Godleski and the wife police say he killed, especially at the restaurant where Marlene Godleski worked.
It was always pleasant. He brought his son up, and they played some of the video games in the grocery store. He just had something that you couldn't say would happen like this. You'd never suspect someone from just meeting him that he would do something like this.
But a neighbor of the family says the Gary Godleski he observed is one of a violent nature.
Yeah, I mean, that's my impression. That's the impression I got since I came out here. You know, like he was ready to explode at any moment, you know, and here, you know, killed his wife, and I read in the paper today that he killed his dogs, too.
The suspect was charged with 1 count of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. Escape charges will more than likely be added to those now. No bail was set. He will be transferred to the county jail sometime tomorrow. In Oregon City, Dalton Tanonaka, Channel 2 News.
This is Kathy Kiyomura. The deputy is stalking murder suspect 34-year-old Gary Godleski, pinned under this crumpled car. He was followed here last Friday by Clackamas County deputies, who found his wife Marlene shot to death that morning. 2 deputies were wounded at the murder scene, 46-year-old Jack Lowry and 50-year-old Dale Frizzell, who was grazed in the left thigh by a bullet. Lowry wasn't so lucky. He was shot in the stomach. He was recently moved from Emmanuel Hospital's intensive care unit. Today he talked about the incident.
I don't remember if I saw a flash but I felt it. Like getting hit in the stomach with I suppose like a horse would kick you. But then I went down. I knew I'd been hit, and shortly after I heard the ambulance from Alpine or Estacada fire coming in, the siren, and they were right there on top of me immediately working on me. Ruined a good uniform. I just cut that all to pieces. I understand I get a repayment for that, though.
Reporters interviewing Lowry were advised not to ask questions about the case. Direct orders from Clackamas County's district attorney. Lowry was anxious to thank everyone responsible for saving his life. People he tried to put at ease, joking with them on the way to the hospital.
I've always said that if I ever lost my sense of humor, I might as well hang it up. As most of the guys on the department will tell you, most of the time I've got a fairly good sense of humor. And I was joking with them more to let them know that I was okay, let them know that I was relaxed, that I knew I was in competent hands. It was an isolated case, and I've gone 23 years without it happening before. And if I can make it another 23, I'll probably hit retirement before it ever happens again.
Jack says the incident has not affected his opinion of police work. He's expected to be released in 10 days. At Emmanuel Hospital, Kathy Kiyomura, Channel 2 News.
As firemen worked to stop the bleeding of this alleged gunman, this deputy, 45-year-old Sergeant Jack Lowry, was in surgery. Surgeons threading back together what had been torn and mangled by a lead bullet that tore completely through his body. It happened 2 weeks ago as Lowry and other Clackamas County deputies investigated a murder near Estacada. He is not cured completely yet, but now well enough to go home.
First thing I'm going to do is relax in my chair and probably just take it easy for a while. I'm feeling fine.
It wasn't exactly a boring 2 weeks in the hospital, but he's pleased to be out of the place. He has lost weight, and his wounds are still draining. He was not forgotten by colleagues and friends. So many flowers were sent, he had to send them out, and then sent out the message, thanks, but no more. Send beer for a party. And they have. In Northeast Portland, I'm Tim Storrs, Channel 2 News.
Hmm.